Hi, this is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well. Thanking you for checking out this series, this trauma and healing series brought to you by Blue Shield of California's Blue Sky Initiative. Let's take a look, if you will, at the demographics of African American and Latinx people in this country who over index, we know this, with regard to serious depression, for instance, and the percentage of the same populations who are working as mental health clinicians. Roughly 13% of the country is Black, according to the last census, and that's compared to only 4% of working mental health clinicians who are African American. The numbers in the Latinx community are even more dire because more of the population is Latinx in this country. If we're to provide truly culturally competent care, as you just so beautifully described to us, I'm wondering, do we have a pipeline problem with regard to people of color in mental health?
Absolutely. And also, I think that we have a huge education when it comes to mental health problem. I think that there's a lot of stigma in our communities in regards to how we look at mental health. And until we don't address that, we cannot look at higher numbers for representation of people who are working on the field, right? Also, if there is no demand because of how we perceive therapy, all the stigma that comes attached to it, whether it's in the African American community, the Latinx community, the indigenous communities, the medical places are, or like the providers are going to look, okay, who can I work with? Who represents the patients that are asking for the services, right? So going back to what I said earlier, it was very important for me to ask for a person of color. I knew pretty much that they were not going to have somebody that I could work with what I was asking. However, putting it there was going to make them look into what do we need? How do we create opportunities for people of color? How do we start talking to patients about this is a pathway for a career? Like we need representation to be able to address much better these cultural competencies, to be able to work with people who look like me, who look like you, who have lived experiences like we have, that understand what it is like to walk in this presentation every day.
So it's quite a lot to think about. I wish we had more time on this particular topic, but it's a lot to think about. You've touched on the next question I was going to ask you. What are the ways in which we can go about finding culturally competent therapists? One of them you just mentioned. You got to speak up. You have to tell your medical provider that you're looking for that. And I love what you just said, Julio. You knew either through your professional experience or intuitively, you knew that that organization wasn't going to have someone, but just asking the question puts it on the table so that when he or she is recruiting or they're talking about adding to the team, those questions will be in their head. We could meet the needs of certain people and we got to do a little bit better. What are some of the other ways in which someone can go about finding a culturally competent therapist?
I think that is very important when you're asking for services to have a two-way conversation, right? If if you ask to see a therapist, usually they do a screening prior to you being able to schedule an appointment with a therapist. So they ask you, what are you experiencing? What do you want to see a therapist? How long you've been feeling this way? You have to do a PHQ-9. You have to do a suicide assessment. All of these things, right? So the medical carriers or the providers are getting the information they need. but at the same time, it's an opportunity for us to do also an interview of, okay, what is important for me to have in a therapist. A lot of what works in therapy is the relation and the communication you build with that person. So for me, I always ask, okay, do you have a person of color? Do you have somebody who identifies as LGBTQI plus? Do you have somebody who has experienced themselves any kind of historical trauma, that somebody who's been in treatment themselves? Like, all these questions are important because we're helping also to find the person that we need and establishing um, expectations of what we need and what we deserve as a recipient of the services.
I really love the way you put that, what we need and what we deserve. And both of those things need to be on the table. Beautifully put, Julio. You talked about some of the questions that you can ask of an organization when you're searching. So once you find the person that you think is the right person, I don't know if this is the right approach or not, but in the 3 periods of my life where I needed a therapist, found a therapist, and sat down for the first time, I treated that as an interview, much like a job interview, and I really interviewed that therapist and asked some pointed questions. I don't know if that was a good approach or not. You can tell me if I've been on track and other people who have done that have been on track. I would think that's a good thing. And if so, what are some of the other questions that we could ask a therapist as we are making decisions about whether to move forward with that person?
Yeah, I think that it is very important. It's a very good approach because you're in a very vulnerable position when you go to therapy. You're going to be putting your emotions to somebody that you don't know for Adam, right?
Yeah.
So, how do I see it in front of somebody that is going to be hearing all my stuff? I do understand, and I want people to understand that there is boundaries that therapists cannot cross. Whether it's a counselor for substance use, mental health, somebody who's a crisis interventionist, we had to keep certain things within ourselves so we don't do transference of or like overshare certain things. But there are things that you can ask, like, how long have you been practicing? What experience do you have in the modality that you practice? What are the benefits of that modality to what I'm feeling, what I'm going through? If that doesn't work, will you be open for me to let you know this is not working out for me? Can we try something else? And as you put it really well, it's an interview. You're doing an interview and setting, like, I think that part of it is like advocating for yourself, because once again, as I said, we not only need it, but we deserve the treatment.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We absolutely deserve it. Let's think about then carrying that analogy through just a little bit more. So you interview your therapist and you hire your therapist and you're moving along for a while. Might there come a time when you may want to fire your therapist? And if
Mhm.
so, when will we know it's a good time to do that?
I think that one of the things that I always recommend for people to do is first have a conversation with your therapist. Let them know that you feel that the approach is not working, that you feel that you're getting stagnant, there is no progress, and be honest. I mean, at the end, this person has listened to some of the saddest, darkest things in your life. So there's nothing wrong with letting them know, hey, this is not working. Can we try something else? Is there a different modality of therapy that you practice that you think can help me with these other areas so we can continue to progress? Once you have that conversation, I think that you can give it 2 or 3 more sessions. And if you feel that you're not being heard and it's not working, by all means, you can tell to your therapist, you know what? Thank you very much. This is not working anymore. I think that sometimes we get stuck because some therapists are able to help us through like the initial hurdles of what we're going through. But the idea is that just because you go to elementary school and then you go to high school, the same teacher you had for elementary school is not going to be able to be the one you need for high school. It doesn't mean they are bad. It just means that you move to a different level and maybe you need a different approach. You need to have a different ear. You need a different bounce back of the ideas that you're having.
Julio, I don't use the word brilliant often. I think really you got to earn that word. You are really brilliant. That analogy I will never forget. The teacher you have in kindergarten can't carry you through grade school, and the teacher you have in grade school can't carry you through to high school. That's a great analogy and leaves you positioned really well to make those critical decisions that you have to make for yourself. I've always believed we have to be our own best advocate. We have to be that, and certainly with regard to healthcare and then mental health care, we've got to be that. So that's a brilliant, brilliant analogy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I could again talk about this stuff with you all day, Julio Cruz, integrated behavioral health specialist and Brother Be Well clinical advisor and my buddy. Thank you, Julio Cruz. Really, really appreciate having you. Always great to see you.
It's amazing to be with you guys, anytime. I love you and I love the work that you guys do. I'm so thankful that you share space with me.
We love you too, and I will certainly be calling on you again. We'll look forward to talking again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening into this, watching and listening into this particular conversation. I also want to thank our sponsor for this one, Blue Shield of California, and specifically their Blue Sky initiative. That initiative boosts access to mental health support. You can learn all about that fantastic program at bluesky.blueshieldca.com. That's bluesky.blueshieldca.com. Another website I've got to tell you about, our own brotherbewell.com. If you like this video, you learned something here, and you want to check out more of the videos, either in this particular series or in any one of a number of topics related to behavioral health or physical health, check us all out. Those videos, audio podcasts, print pieces, all of it's at brotherbewell.com. We're a membership service, so if you can join as a member, that would be great. If you want to start out a little slower than that, give us your email address. You'll sign up for our blog, and 2 or 3 times a week, you'll start to get notifications about videos just like this as they go live. All of that is at brotherbewell.com. Until next time, and I can't say goodbye. I hate that word. So until we get to see and talk to you again, my name is Michael P. Coleman, Content Director for Brother Be Well, asking you to do 2 things for me. Take great care of yourself, and we're doing everything we can to give you the tools that you need to do that. When you get that down, reach out or reach to the side and grab somebody else. Take care of them too. Till next time, bye-bye.